Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Surrounded by Bourbon with me, Phil Crawford, aka Causeway Whiskey. This is episode 42 and we are doing another Bushmills back to back. Today we are looking at two variations of the rather famous Bushmills Black Bush. Not going to go into a huge amount of history or anything with the Black Bush range, other than the fact that Black Bush kind of originated around 1930s, around 1934 potentially, and was known as the Old Special Liqueur. And then because it was put on the back bar with this black label, it just kind of became known as Black Bush whenever people went to order. I don't know if you can hear outside, but we're having a bit of a thunderstorm here in Florida today, so there may be some sound effects that are added to this for your enjoyment. And then by the 1980s it had been relabeled as Black Bush, and it was always kind of seen as like a deluxe blend. It's an incredibly high malt component, so Black Bush has 80% single malt that has been matured in a combination of bourbon and then sherry casks. And then it has 20% single grain, which at present comes from Middleton Distillery, but is a unique mash bill grain whiskey that comes from them specifically for Bushmills. And I believe that is bourbon cask matured. Also, even though it's a no age statement, it is roughly around 8 years old for both components, for the malt and the single grain. So it's pretty well aged. It is a high sherry cask component and then very high malt content as well. And so really for a long time, this was probably considered, at least in Irish whiskey fans circles, probably one of the best bang for buck or pound for pound whiskey that you were going to get on the whiskey shelves. Now, I personally think that things have diminished slightly. Part of that, I believe, is because in 2005 Bushmills was sold from Irish distillers to Diageo, and honestly Diageo really didn't do much with the Bushmills brand. To me, they just didn't really invest in it. They did kind of push the single malts a bit more here in America and things, but it's felt amongst most whiskey fans that during that time the quality of Bushmills spirit started to decline. Maybe the wood management wasn't quite as good, and that they were maybe just pushing out volume for sales. So even now Bushmills Black Bush that you're getting, even though Jose Cuervo bought Bushmills in 2014, you're probably still getting some of the whiskey that was part of that Diageo reign at the time, still in the Black Bush. And Jose Cuervo, you know, to be fair to them, they have started turning things around. We've had the Causeway collection, cask strength single malts and varying age statements. It's still a bit hit and miss, I guess, like any distillery is. But I definitely think they're doing a much better job with the brand than Diageo ever did. But hey, it's Diageo. As whiskey enthusiasts, why would be surprised? So, what's the second bottle? Well, this is currently a travel retail exclusive. This is the Black Bush, and it is the 80/20, and this is the PX Sherry Cask Reserve. So the label reads that this is 80% single malt that is finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry barrels, married with 20% small batch grain whiskey. So I believe that it's essentially the same as Black Bush, but then it just has this extra finishing period with the PX on the single malt component. Also, thankfully, this is bottled at 46% ABV or 92 proof, whereas this is Bushmills standard 40% ABV or 80 proof. Anyway, let us get into some of the nosing and the tasting, and we will see what we can get. So I'll start off with the normal Black Bush. And there's one thing I always get with Black Bush, and it is a combination of the foam banana penny chews that we would have got back home in Ireland, and also ripe, nearly like overripe, actual fresh banana. There's some tinned pineapple rings in here, some peach, honeydew melon, fruit salad sweets. So it is quite a sweet saccharine nose. You definitely get some biscuity malt coming through. There's honey, there's cinnamon, some raisin, and definitely a heavy dose of brown sugar. It actually noses to me as if it's nearly artificially sweet. It's that kind of pronounced. So that's the Black Bush. Let us try the 8020 PX. So again, that banana note, both the foam and the ripe banana, it's all there. There's candied apples. There's maybe some like white grape juice. Because of that PX component, there is definitely quite a pronounced raisin note to this. And a bit of nuttiness as well, sort of like hazelnuts going on. But that Bushmills underlying fruitiness of the malt is still there, so you're still getting like the peach and the pineapple as well. There's a bit of a buttery note off it, like salted butter. Again with honey. There's some cracked black pepper in there and a hint of cinnamon as well. So this one definitely doesn't smell artificial. It smells a bit more balanced, a bit more nuanced as well. So that's a pretty good sign. Palate, let's get into the original Black Bush. So it's a bit, again, a sweet arrival. Thankfully not as sweet as the nose would suggest. It's sweet with a bit of spice. So there's caramel, there's brown sugar, there's that banana note again, there's fresh melon, and then we get some hot cinnamon, a bit of nutmeg. There's some vanilla. Palate wise, or mouthfeel wise, I would say, even looking at the legs and the glass, I don't know if you can see that, but it does run a little thin. There's a bit of milk chocolate going on, a little raisin note, but towards the end, and this is where I feel that you can kind of highlight the slight decline in Bushmills Black Bush. To me, there is a bit of a bitter note, a slightly sour, nearly like wet cardboard kind of note that's just hanging around there that is a little off-putting, truth be told. Yeah, I just can't really shake that. Once I get that wet cardboard thing, I just can't get rid of it in my head. Let's try the big brother, shall we? Okay, so even with the extra ABV, the mouthfeel to this is still just a little thin. I would imagine both of these are probably chill filtered within an inch of their life. And so that definitely does kind of affect the mouthfeel. Let's go for another little sip and then we'll see what sort of flavors I'm getting here. So this is a touch more sherried, I would say. There's like more raisin, maybe a little bit of date. There's a sort of syrupy sweetness going on, some marzipan as well. There's some shaved almonds. The peach and the pineapple from the nose are definitely still there. And there is a little bit of spice, some mild pepper, a bit of nutmeg, a little bit of maybe clove. And just towards the end, maybe some orange peel. Thankfully in this one I don't notice any of that kind of sour, cardboard, off-putting note. So this one does feel a little bit more together. I'm going to go back to this one and we'll consider the finish. So the finish here is sort of, it's on the short side. We're getting the orange peel, we're getting the raisins, a light bit of baking spice, but sadly just that bitter note just will not go away, for my palate anyway. Yeah, so that's that. We'll do the finish in this, and then I'll talk about the prices, and then we'll do the score, and then my overall thoughts on both of these. So it's slightly longer, it's still on the short side. There's a bit of fruit and nut chocolate going on, a bit of orange peel again, raisins definitely. Baking spices are good there again, so like that cinnamon, clove, nutmeg. Yeah, definitely a bit more of a substantial dram, this one. The ABV definitely helps in that regard, I think. Price points then. So I think back home in the UK, Bushmills Black Bush is around probably anywhere between 27 to 30 pounds a bottle. Over here, I picked this up at ABC Wines and Spirits for $34, which is £24.50 or 29 euros. This, as I say, is a travel retail exclusive, so I got this in Dublin Airport as I was leaving to come to Florida. So there's obviously a bit, don't have to pay the tax. So this was actually cheaper than this. It was $28.50 or £22.25 or 27 euros. And also you get a litre of this. I'm not sure what I would have paid for this actually duty free. I'm sure it would have been, or if I was traveling within the EU, you'd have to pay the duty, so probably a bit more expensive than that. So scores and final thoughts. So normal Black Bush, I am going to score that a 4 out of 10. And the Big Brother, the PX Sherry Cask Reserve, I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. What's my thinking behind the scores? So the last time I reviewed this, actually if you go on my website at causewaywhiskey.com, the first time I reviewed Bushmills Black Bush was around 2018, and I was highly effusive of Black Bush. I would have encouraged most people to go and buy a bottle if they've never tried Irish whiskey. I always thought it was a great starting point before you got into malts or before you got into the single pot stills like Redbreast. But as I've said in the start of this, I have noticed, at least to my palate, that there has been a bit of a decline in the quality of Black Bush, and it's still there for me, I'm afraid. This to me would no longer be one that I would be a definite that you have to go and buy. I think that there's other options available now, whether it's, it's different, Clonakilty Galley Head, which is a bourbon matured Irish blend, even like the Glendalough double barrels. There are stuff from Two Stacks that's really well made and can compete with this. Even the Teeling small batch blend. You know, there's things to play about with. Jameson Black Barrel is probably the one that I would recommend over the top of it. So yeah, I'm kind of sad that I'm being perceived to being negative. I mean, it's not a terrible whiskey, it's just not what it was. And to me it is just a little bit below average at the minute. Hopefully Bushmills will get everything together and will resurrect this to the greatness that it was. I mean, back in the day, if I had been scoring a Black Bush, I probably would have given it a 6 or a 7, which for like a $30 blend is a pretty good score, to be honest. The PX Reserve, the 820 PX, it definitely is helped by the extra ABV. There's a little bit more character to it, a little bit more flavour, a bit more nuanced. If I was leaving Ireland again, would I buy another bottle of this? Probably not, I would have to say. But it is pretty solid, and if it's in your price range and you are on duty free or whatever, then definitely give it a go. You can see what you think yourself. And as always, you know, please comment on the video, like it, dislike it, share it. Please follow, subscribe, help me grow the channel. Anyway, I hope this has been informative and interesting. I am gonna go now and try something from Scotland. So that'll be the next review. Something intensely peaty, by the way. So you may be able to guess what sort of brand I'm gonna be going for. So yeah, anyway, have a great night. That's been my thoughts on these two Bushmills Black Bush, and I will see you again soon. Have a great night. Sláinte.